Slavery is back.
Welcome to a place where private business profit from a captive labour force, yet pennies are spent on medical services to a population in which the Indigenous, the poor and the mentally ill are overrepresented. Where isolation, humiliation and degradation are facts of life. Welcome to prison.
It depends who's telling the story, I suppose. The prisoners would have one view, the people who work in the prison system would have another, and I think it's up to people to decide where the truth is.
Give government propaganda and the media spin doctors the flick. And check out Doin' Time for news, views and tunes on prison issues from Guantanamo Bay to Christmas Island to prisons and detention centres everywhere. Every Monday at 4 p.m. on your community radio 3CR.
We are still fired up and we're still talking about revolution.
Hello and welcome to the Doin' Time show. This is 3CR Community Radio, 855 AM on the dial, streaming live on www.3cr.org.au. This is Marissa and I'll be taking you through until 5 o'clock this evening. This episode of Doin' Time contains audio images of Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander people who have died. First up on the show, we're going to be speaking with Kieran, who is going to tell us what land he's from, and he's from the president of the Black People's Union. And we're going to be speaking with Kieran in quite a lot of detail about the Voice to Parliament. I have interviewed Kieran before, but I think it's really important to be able to interview First Nations activists rather than just interviewing CEOs and people who are in privileged positions. And while it is fantastic that First Nations people are doing well and activists also do well, and we do need to interview people from all walks of life. So we're going to be speaking with Kieran about First Nations rights, looking at treaty. We really do need to go a step further with this topic rather than just looking at the voice. There are a lot of clans that do not agree with this, and we need to look at that. And then after that, I'm hoping we could speak with Jill Gallagher, who is a fantastic First Nations warrior from Western Victoria who's worked within, led and advocated for the Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander community all her life. And she's a highly respected leader who has dedicated her life to advocating for self-determination outcomes on behalf of the Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander community. And I'm hoping to speak with Jill, and I've had a lot of trouble getting onto her, about a challenge that was dismissed in the federal court about not recognising the age pension for Aboriginal people. The fact is that there's been age pension discrimination towards Uncle Dennis Wacker, despite Australian government's failure to close life expectancy gap. There's been a lot of unfair access and inequalities towards the age pension for Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander people. So hopefully I'll be speaking with her. These are two very special extended interviews. And we're going to be speaking with Kieran now.
The Chilean community, in partnership with the AMWU's International Solidarity Initiative, is holding a commemorative event for the 50th anniversary of Chile's coup, September 11, the day that changed us forever. Join generations of Chilean refugees, exiles and recent arrivals, together with Australian unionists and activists in the Solidarity movement, for a night of testimonies, speakers, poetry and music on Monday, September 11, from 6 p.m. at Solidarity Hall at the Victorian Trades Hall. This event will be held in English and all are welcome. To register, search for Chile 50 Years on eventbrite.com.au. Chile, 50 years of solidarity and struggle. A 3CR supporter.
And we're back with the Doin' Time show. And if in case you've just tuned in, this is 3CR Community Radio. Hi, Kieran. Welcome to the program.
Hey, Walawani. Marissa, how you going?
Absolutely. Look, okay. I've just come back to the show after a couple of weeks' break. So, yeah, I'm raring to go.
No.
So, Karen, can you just give us a little bit of introduction about what, the activist stuff that you do, and also talk about what land you're from?
Yeah. So I'm a TO from Waniwandi country up in the UN Nation. It's on the south coast of New South Wales, about a 3-hour drive or so south of Sydney. I've been involved in a whole bunch of activism over the last sort of 15-ish odd years. Been in the High Court a couple of times with some of my extended family over some land rights issues. I've worked around policy development in corrective services, trying to make things a bit better in there for mobs. I've, worked around water quality and providing safe drinking water to communities that have had their drinking water impacted by the government or by, big mining corporations. Done a bit of stuff around unions and, industrial disputes. A whole bunch of stuff, really.
Fantastic. And, Kieran, I hope you don't mind that I've invited you back on. I mean, I've invited you for the Stolen Wages special program. But the reason why I've invited you back is because you do quite a lot of activism, and I think that there's been a lot of really bad radio and a lot of bad press in regards to the Voice to Parliament, and every time I hear it, I just cringe. And I really wanted you to come back because, I just feel that the Black People's Union does need to be represented, and you've talked a lot about why, you want to do a no for the Voice to Parliament. But I suppose I'd really like to talk to you in a little bit more detail now about treaty and about what it is that the Black People's Union represents and what you want, the work that you want to do. But before we do that, as a lead up to that, because I'm sure there are new listeners that have just tuned in, can you talk about the Black People's Union briefly and their its position on what's happened with the Voice and some of the issues?
Yeah, no worries. So the Black People's Union, we're a revolutionary organisation. We're only just over a year old now. Had our first year anniversary last month, but we've only been public since January this year. What we are, we're an organisation working towards the complete liberation from our colonial capitalist government. We want the complete liberation of blackfellas in our country, but not just blackfellas, the entire working class as well, whether they're Indigenous or non-Indigenous. What we're really working for is the complete overthrow of capitalism and the liberation from the exploitation and oppression that comes with that, and to abolish this colonial government we have and replace it with a government that actually works for the people and that serves the people and that's First Nations led, so that we can address that primary contradiction here, which is colonisation.
And how did it come about? How was it formed?
Yeah, so I suppose how we first started is we noticed that there was a bit of a gap in the trade union industry, in amongst trade union in regards to First Nations people who are working in specific sort of fields around culture and around our identity. So, a lot of blackfellas who work, for example, doing stuff like Welcome to Countries and, doing cultural tours, performing gigs at various different events. They don't have an actual union in place to represent them. And, people who go into schools and stuff and teach culture and all that sort of stuff as well. There's no actual union that centres around them. But not only that, we notice that within the union movement itself, where there is unions already covering industries, they're not all industries, obviously, and not all unions. Some are better than others. But, there was still a bit of a lack as well in being able to properly address some of the issues that First Nations people face that are unique to us, such as the whole, racism that we face within the workplace and, that anti-Indigenous sentiment we face within the workplace. A lot of unions can't properly capture and address this as they currently operate. So, we came in to try and plug that gap a bit. Since then, though, we've, grown to a position now where we're not just a union, we're also somewhat of a political organisation. We're trying to fill all of these gaps in society that we see, not just within our employment, but in all fields of society, whether it's, housing, employment, education, health, all that sort of stuff. I suppose ultimately the best way to explain it is, we're just an organisation that's trying to do what we can for blackfellas wherever we see that there's, a lack there.
Absolutely. And so when all this started happening with the referendum, how did the Black People's Union get its position happening?
Yeah, so our membership is, like a lot of our core members and our core organisers and our founding members, we've been very present on the scene for years, if not decades, involved in a lot of our land rights movements and a lot of our deaths in custody movements and, other similar movements out there. So we already had quite a fundamental understanding of the history of this constitutional recognition, which goes right back to the Howard era government. And this is something that a lot of people don't understand as well about this whole voice proposition, is that it was actually an idea that John Howard's cabinet came up with. And it was first put into play by Tony Abbott. People forget that LNP were in power back in 2016, 2017, when stuff like the Referendum Council was set up and when those regional dialogues were held and the Yulara Convention were held. This wasn't a Labor initiative. This began as a Liberal initiative. And the whole reason it began is they wanted to further undermine our sovereignty. So when I say sovereignty, what I'm specifically talking about is our right of self-determination and our right to manage our own land. Now, this voice seeks to undermine that further. It's not necessarily that it seeks to cede our sovereignty per se. It's more that it seeks to cede our sovereignty through technicality by denying and undermining and preventing us being able to exercise our sovereignty. And by exercising our sovereignty, that's us actually, exercising our self-determination and exercising management over our land.
Wow, that's just... But then...
Yeah, and even today, all this evidence is still there today as well. Like, we hear quite a lot that, the no side, for example, is funded by big mining interests, but that's not the case. We've got actual mining executives from BHP, from Woodside Petroleum, and others who are aligned with the mining industry, such as Energy Australia. We've got their actual executives sitting on either the Referendum Council or the board of the Yes 23 campaign. And you go and look at the donors for the Yes 23 campaign, you see people like BHP giving $2 million, Rio Tinto giving $2 million, West Farmers who have got massive agribusiness interests. Again, they went and donated $2 million. All up, there's been something like 25 to 27 million donated from different farming, mining and logging businesses towards the F23 campaign. And even, the other stuff on there, aside from those mining execs, we see people like Mark Textor. Now, for those who don't know who Mark Textor is, he was trained by Reagan over in America, and what he is he's a conservative strategist. He's actually the person who worked on John Howard and Tony Abbott's election campaigns and helped them get elected in the first place. And now he's sitting on this Yes 23 board. There's also people like Tony Nutt, who was John Howard's very own chief of staff, and even Amanda Vanstone, who was a senator and minister under John Howard, and who was actually the senator who signed off on the abolishment of ATSIC, amongst a whole bunch of other stuff that she done. And, these are the people behind this Yes 23 campaign and these people behind the proposal that's going forward. And these people have never had our best interests at heart. These people have never done anything to benefit us or to, help us reach any sort of level of equality in society. They benefit from our exploitation and our oppression, especially, these big mining companies. We've got BHP, backing this whole Yes proposal and being actively a part of their campaigning and actively funding the campaigning of it. But at the same time, BHP is out there blowing up hundreds of sacred sites so they can, put in $5 billion mining expansion. Now, anybody listening, just use a bit of common sense for a second. Why would people like BHP and Woodside Petroleum, who are always blowing up our sacred sites so they can profit billions of dollars, through stealing our natural resources, why would they support any sort of proposal or campaign that could potentially impact their profits and benefit blackfellas? Like, at the end of the day, they simply wouldn't. It would be a bad business choice for them to do that.
I know,
And all of this stuff too that I'm saying, like, this is easily verifiable as well. Anybody with access to Google can go and look at the official websites of the Referendum Council and the Yes 23 campaign and can go through their About section and see for themselves the sort of people who are on there. And you can go look at websites like the Australian Financial Review, who have run articles on the donations towards the Yes 23 campaign. Like, all the receipts are there.
Oh. So, okay, so you're talking about all this, and it's so wonderful that you're into all the environmental stuff, which is closely linked to Aboriginal people protecting country. So, how do we move forward from here?
Yeah, great question. So, we're not just campaigning no. We are actually, talking about alternatives out there. I suppose one of our major ways that we see that we can move forward, and one of the most important next steps that we need to take, is we have an idea for treaty with the BPU, but our idea for treaty isn't the normal stereotypical idea of treaty that's been around for the last few decades. Instead, we've done a bit of an analysis on treaties, on their impacts around the world, and, what sort of effects they've had for other First Nations people, as well as Australia's own track record on the various different treaties they've entered into with the United Nations and with other nations around the world. And, when you actually go and you look at all of this wealth of knowledge out there that exists around treaties, and you look at their impact and you look at the conditions that people are living under today, you come to the conclusion that a treaty with a colonial government isn't worth the paper it's written on. Like, at the end of the day, every single treaty that was signed between the Māori and the New Zealand colonial government, as well as every treaty signed over in Turtle Island between the First Nations people there and the Canadian government and the United States government, every single one of those treaties, and there's thousands of treaties there, every single one of them, bar none, has been broken. And every time they're broken, it's not the First Nations people breaking it, it's not the First Nations people benefiting from these treaties being violated, it's the colonial government violating it and benefiting from it. And at the end of the day, Australia's own track record with their human rights treaties paints a horrific picture. Like, you go and you look at their violations, and on average they're doing, every 2 months or so, Australia is being picked up by the UN for violating human rights treaties that they're signatories to. Now, if they're not going to abide by treaties that they've signed with bodies like the UN and with other big nations around the world that have a lot more power, influence and money than what us blackfellas have here in Australia, why would we think that they would respect a treaty with us? So, so I suppose our position instead is we're not fully against treaty, but we are against a treaty with a colonial government that is only going to give them legitimacy and consent to be here and to occupy our lands and people. Instead, what we push for is a treaty between First Nations people across the continent. That way, all of us mobs can come together, we can have a pan-Aboriginal movement, and using that strength, we can actually have a lot better bargaining position and a lot more power and coordination to actually be able to exercise a bit more self-determination and exercise a bit more sovereignty and, lay some claim back towards our land, which is something that isn't going to happen so long as we're entertaining ideas of entering into 101 different individual treaties on a nation-based level with a government where there's no balance of power for mobs and where they're going to use it much in the same way as they did with the Native Title Act, where they're just going to pit communities against each other and they're going to pit people within communities against each other as a part of their whole divide and conquer tactics.
So how is it then that we can actually implement the recommendations of the Royal Commission into Aboriginal deaths in custody?
Yeah, well, see, and this is another thing, when we talk about the voice, sorry, I'm just going a bit off topic a little bit, but it ties into what we're talking about. People talk about the recommendations that the voice will give, right? we've got recommendations out there, like the Royal Commission to Aboriginal Deaths in Custody, that's 31 years old now, and the government is still failing to implement them. Now, these recommendations, such as the one from the Royal Commission to Aboriginal Deaths in Custody, or the Bringing Them Home report into, our stolen generation, these recommendations come from people who are industry professionals, who have lived experience, and who actually know what they're talking about. You couldn't find better people to give recommendations on these issues than the people who did back during the Royal Commission and the report into stolen children. Now, if that's the case, how come these recommendations haven't been implemented by the colonial government? It's because at the end of the day, they don't want to. They don't want to improve our condition. They don't want to do anything to liberate us because they benefit and profit from our exploitation and our oppression. Australia, the nation, cannot exist without blackfellas, first and foremost, being oppressed, being exploited, and having our land occupied by this military occupation, which is the Australian government. But to answer the question, how do we actually get these things implemented? It's a really great question. And, to be honest, I don't quite have the answer for that, especially not under the current government system that we have. But that's why the BPU has taken that approach of the government system is flawed. You cannot reform it to any extent where it will actually be a good system. Instead, we just need to abolish the system and start from scratch. Yeah, but in the meantime, until that happens, because obviously that's got to be a gradual process, because the Black People's Union, it's important for them to its position to revolutionise, isn't it? But in the meantime, what do we do? Because we've got people like Veronica Nelson, Arnie Tanya. We've got all the people that have died at the hands of this colonial government. What do we do until that happens? And also with the Bringing Them Home report, we've got to keep the babies at home rather than them becoming the second stolen generation. Yeah, definitely. Look, it's a really great question. I mean, at the end of the day, I still do encourage people to try as best as they can to try and, push these things forward more. Now, whether that means bringing up your local ministers and senators and hassling their office for, that minister. I know what you're saying. On it. It's a hard one though. At the end of the day, under this system, there's only so much we can win in terms of gains, and there's only so much we can do to, put up barriers to protect ourselves from this colonial government, and stop our children being taken and stop our people dying in custody and being locked up at such horrendous rates. It's really we're really pushed up against the wall here, for lack of a better term. But there really is some. So go on. What was that? Oh no, sorry. I was just going to say, I suppose the way I look at it, a lot of people don't see any revolutionary potential in Australia. Now, it's very easy to fall into that trap because you got to remember we're surrounded by so much capitalist and colonial propaganda every day, which is just designed to absolutely destroy any sort of motivation, inspiration or spirit we have towards revolution. But Australia itself, as a federated nation, is still a very young nation. It's only, 122 years old, right? In the grand scheme of things, on a global scale, Australia is a very young and a very juvenile nation. Now, when we have a look at some of the other nations around the world that have been around a lot longer than Australia has, nearly all of them, at one point or another, go through some sort of meaningful revolt or revolution where their people rise up and they're able to win some great advances for the working class and for the exploited and oppressed in their society. Now, it's almost as if it's a rite of passage for, any decent nation to mature. They have to go through this revolt, this revolution. Australia hasn't had that yet. We're still a very young nation, and there's still every potential that is in our future very close on the horizon. And in terms of, don't get me wrong, I'm not saying that this is going to happen next year. There might be every chance that I'm just out here planting seeds for trees that, my grandchildren get to enjoy. I might not live to see the revolution or anything like that. That being said, I really hope I do too. But, that being said, a lot of people might know about the October Revolution back in 1917 in Russia. Now, the December before that, in 1916, only 10 months earlier than that, Lenin, who was one of the leaders of this revolution, he himself felt like he would never in his lifetime live to see a revolution, and that it was years and years and years off. 10 months later, they had their revolution and they overthrew their monarchy. So, we feel today that it's so far away, but it could happen in a year. It could happen in 6 months. It could happen in 6 years. It's just over the horizon for us. It's just getting to that point.
Yeah. Kieran, I'm hoping that we do see massive change, and I'm really happy to have you on because, as I said, there's absolutely no point just having, CEOs on here. We need to have a mixture of people and a mixture of viewpoints.
No, I really appreciate that you get me on as well.
Kieran, it's been amazing. It's gone so quickly. We've spoken for nearly half an hour, which is wonderful. And thank you so much for coming onto the program. And let's just see how it goes, isn't it? And see what comes out.
Yeah. And look, at the end of the day, whether a yes gets up or a no gets up, we're still going to continue our fight. We're still going to continue our struggle, and we're still going to keep organising towards the abolishment of the country.
Absolutely. Good on you, Kieran. Thanks so much.
Cheers. Thanks. See ya.
Bye.
Keffiyehs are Palestinian scarves, and they're a symbol of support for justice for the Palestinian people. Buying one will support the last remaining factory in Hebron that makes keffiyehs, and all proceeds from the sales support projects in Palestine, especially Gaza, as well as local solidarity organisations. From the traditional black and white keffiyeh to an array of modern designs. Explore the range and order online or drop by 3CR during business hours. We're your support for the rights of Palestinians. Go to keffiyehs.org.au, that's KUFIYAS.org.au, a 3CR supporter.
And you're back with the Doing Time show. And I want to introduce a very, very special guest. And I did introduce her at the beginning. It's Jill Gallagher. We spoke with Kieran before from the Black People's Union, and now we're going to be speaking with Jill about the Federal Court of Australia, who has dismissed the legal challenge seeking fair and equal access to the age pension for Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander people. Hello, Jill. Welcome to the program.
Thank you. Thank you very much for asking me on.
It's so awesome to have you, Jill. I've had to do a lot of hard work to get you talking on the show.
Oh, I'm so sorry.
No, you've been incredibly busy, haven't you?
Oh, it's terrible, especially with the referendum coming up and.
Oh yes, and the Europe Commission as well, because we were interviewing you about that some weeks ago now. Yep,
Europe Commission, a lot of work being done there. Yes,
absolutely. Actually, we were interviewing somebody before you about the referendum and the voice to Parliament, although he's wanting to do no.
Okay.
But obviously you're yes, right?
Of course.
Yeah. We might have a bit of a chat about that towards the end, but there's a lot going on with the referendum, isn't there, really?
Oh, there is so much, and, it's just, look, I don't know. I mean, I've lived on this earth here for 67 years now.
Yep.
And I'd like to see some change for our people, the First Peoples of this country.
Absolutely.
And any change better than none.
Yeah, we'll talk about that because we've got. Yeah. I mean, I'm hoping that there's not going to be any rush that you're able to chat for a little while. Do you have to leave anytime soon?
No, all good.
Oh, I'm so
Since
glad.
I kept you waiting, I had no problem with that.
Oh, thanks, Auntie. Yeah. Okay, let's get going. So let's start off with talking to me about what land you're from.
I'm from the Gunditjmara country, which is down western Victoria, down near Hayward, Portland, Warrnambool, down where the amazing fish traps are. That's my mob.
Beautiful, beautiful. Okay, so I wanted to talk to you about Uncle Dennis and what's happening with the age pension court case. Can you talk about that?
Yes, I can. Look, for a long time, VATCHO's always believed we should be accessing the aged care pension a lot earlier than what the cut-off is for the general population. But it was actually Uncle Dennis that actually took it to the federal courts. And there's a lot of Aboriginal organisations behind Uncle Dennis and his fight for, I say fight for justice, to lower the age for Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander people to access the aged care pension, because we know, don't we, that there is a life expectancy gap between Aboriginal and non-Aboriginal people in this country. And since I've been around, we've been trying to close that gap, but we haven't been successful yet. And the early signs of this iteration of Close the Gap doesn't look promising either.
No.
So our mob are dying well before we can access the aged care pension.
That's exactly right.
Yeah.
So despite recognising the ongoing gap life expectancy, the court didn't accept that Australia's racial discrimination laws should give the Aboriginal people earlier access to the age pension. And it came on the same day as the Closing the Gap annual data compilation report.
That's exactly right. How ironic. I know. You really got to kick yourself, don't you? Pinch yourself to see whether you live in La La Land.
Exactly.
No, it is disappointing, very disappointing that we didn't win that case. But, Dennis and his amazing leadership tried, but we didn't get there.
Were you at the court case?
No, but I followed it very closely. The Human Rights Commission, we provided, VATCHO along with VOWS and many other Aboriginal organisations, provided a lot of support for it. VOWS took the lead on this and we just come in behind VOWS to support it, and we always have. I mean, it's ironic, we're fighting hard to lower the age for our mob to access pensions, and yet we're fighting hard to increase the age of criminal responsibility.
That's right.
But anyways.
It's interesting, I think that history, First Nations history and what happened to mob back then in the missions is still active today, and there are still people dying now.
Oh, of course there are. Otherwise we wouldn't have a signed agreement by all governments in this country to close that gap. We still have a gap, and that's all because of colonisation. It wasn't just a nice come in, shake a hand, and Bob's your uncle. It was very brutal, and it did a lot of damage to our communities and our families. And we're still seeing a lot of that damage today, how it manifests, whether it be, chronic illness. Our communities are plagued with chronic illness, and not just one chronic illness, it's usually multiple chronic illnesses. Us overrepresented in the justice system. And the list goes on, I don't want to sit here and quote to our mob. We know what our problems are. We've got a lot of issues with drug and alcohol in our communities. And only we can solve them, but we need the right, the right environment and the right policies and the right structures to do that.
As you're talking, I'm just thinking about some of the people that I've interviewed on this show, and they've all passed away. Like, for example, Uncle Jack Charles recently passed away, didn't he?
Yes.
And then we had the beautiful Vivian, who was a programmer here at 3CR who died young.
Yes.
And then from Queensland, I used to interview Uncle Sam Watson. You would have heard of him?
Yes.
Beautiful, beautiful,
yes.
incredible man. And I used to interview him, and he's passed. And then Uncle Ray Jackson, I was interviewing him on a weekly basis just about, and he's passed.
Yes.
So I've been going through a lot of grief about that, and about all these people dying nearly all at the same time, and realising that all our elders are dying. And I'm not trying to, proclaim gloom and doom here, but it's true, isn't it, Jill?
It is true. It is so very true. Here in Victoria, our flags are always flying at half-mast. I didn't even know. Who was telling me? Someone was telling me today that an Aboriginal man passed away, and he was only 56.
Huh?
Where is that? That was somewhere. I know it's in Victoria. I just can't remember. There's that many.
Yeah.
Gunai Kurnai, over the last few months, have had many deaths.
Mm-hmm.
And they're people, not old. So how do we... Anyways.
I know. It's really hard.
It is hard, and it gets you down, by the way.
Yep.
It really does. It gets me down. I get a little bit depressed about it. And,
me too.
Yeah, and here we are just fighting to try and have a voice, for crying out loud.
Yeah.
And I just think it's quite extraordinary that I had in the office, and that's why I was a bit late for my interview at 4.
Sure.
I had in the office today the Shadow Minister. What was his name? His name was Julian Leeser, MP, who's part of the coalition. He resigned from the front bench to move to the back bench so he can advocate for a voice to Parliament.
Oh.
Yes. He was in my office just before, and, what an amazing man, non-Aboriginal man, who was on the front bench of the Liberal Party, opposed the No campaign. So he had to move to the back bench so he can oppose it.
Wow.
Anyways, I won't go on about that.
No, but this is a good thing that you've mentioned, because I would like to have a bit of a chat about the referendum, because it is a very current topic, and there is quite a lot of bad radio about that anyway.
Yes, I know.
But before we do that, how is Uncle Dennis bearing up with all this now?
Can I say, I don't know. I haven't spoken to...
Sure,
Uncle
but I
Dennis.
imagine,
Yeah, but I can imagine it would be, I don't know, it'd be like a punch in the face, wouldn't it, really?
It would.
Yes, it'd be so disappointing, because we've got a life expectancy gap. We know there's a gap. We know the majority of us. There are some of our mob who do live, like my mum, who's lived who actually this Saturday and is still with us, and still got all her faculties, just a little bit crustier. She turns 97.
Absolutely. Sorry about that.
Yeah. So, she has defied all the odds. But the majority of our mob haven't.
Exactly. Exactly.
And so they're the mob that we've got to, we've got to close that gap. And at the moment it's not working. And I believe it's not working because we don't have any power or any standing.
Well, that's right. And in fact, the closing the gap annual data compilation report found that Australia is still not on track to meet the target of equal life expectancy by 2031. And that's when the court decision happened as well.
Exactly right. Isn't that that's a real slap in the face.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And I don't know, I think we need a powerful... I keep coming back, and I don't want to keep coming back to it, but we need to have... part of VACCHO's strategic plan, and this is well before the referendum was even talked about, right? This is part of our plan, our strategic plan, is to build our strong voice.
Tell me about VATCHO.
VATCHO, yeah, okay. Well, VATCHO, we're a peak body for Aboriginal health and wellbeing in Victoria. We became VATCHO back in 1996. I started at VATCHO in 1998. I know. But, you know, we're a peak body for Aboriginal health and wellbeing, so we need to have that powerful voice as ourselves. We need government to listen to us and to take us serious, not just as lip service.
Well, that's right.
And so you've got to work on how do we build our reputation, how do we build our voice as a very strong, powerful, and a voice that knows what they're talking about. That's what we've got to do, because otherwise no one will listen to you.
Well, that's exactly right. I mean, the current pension age is 67 years.
Yep.
That certainly doesn't account for the differences in life expectancy and health outcomes for Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander people, does it?
No, definitely not. So it's my understanding that what Dem and his legal team were asking for was to lower the age to 50.
Yeah.
For older Aboriginal people.
That's really... Yeah.
You know, and Aboriginal people, older and elders, you know, they play a vital role in our communities.
That's right.
And the least we can do is to ensure, one, that they live a longer life, so that life expectancy gap does need to close. But in the meantime, they should be able to access an aged care pension that sees them at least live some comfort in their life.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Talk to me about the referendum. Tell us about the voice, what your position is, or what the position is of VATCHO.
Yeah. Well, VATCHO's position is we support a yes vote. We support having a voice to parliaments.
Yep.
My opinion, my personal opinion as Jill Gallagher, as a Gunditj Mara woman, I 150% support a voice to parliaments. At the moment, we've got nothing, have we? What have we got?
Yeah.
We've got and no disrespect to the Coalition of Peaks, because they're all service providers that provide services to Aboriginal community. So the Coalition is not our voice. It's a voice to help close that life expectancy gap. But if we had a voice that's enshrined in the Constitution, that alone gives us, as the first peoples of this country, proper standing in our own countries. You know, I mean, when colonisation or invasion, whichever language you want to use, first started here on this continent, there was some judge over in London that declared this continent terra nullius. That means that no human beings lived here, right?
Oh.
And that gave the colonisers open slather to go and say, well, you know, we don't care if we kill the blackfellas or round them up and put on a mission, because back home they all believe it wasn't occupied.
Oh.
So when the native, jumping ahead now, 250 years or 230 years, when native title was first proclaimed, there was some recognition going to be in that we are the first peoples, and it wasn't terra nullius, because the High Court's overturned the concept of terra nullius, so that was a good start. But nothing's ever happened since then.
Oh.
So, you know, overturning the concept of terra nullius didn't mean much to us, really. What did it achieve? But if we can manage to get this powerful voice, even though our mob are saying it's only an advisory committee, who cares? From little things, big things grow.
Do you think?
And at the moment, we've got no standing in this country as the first peoples.
That's true.
Yeah, so I'm all for.
Yeah.
Sorry.
No, that's good. I mean, it's good. It is better than nothing.
Yeah.
But there are so many, you know, Jill, I've spoken to quite a few First Nations people, and some people have yes, but some people are so angry and disillusioned with the government.
Yes, look, can I say, and I don't blame them, by the way. I really don't, but what's the alternative? Can someone tell us, if the voice is not it, what's the alternative?
Well, they're saying, some mob are saying treaty. And I 100% support the treaty. But you know what? To get treaty, you need a voice. Yeah.
What did we do in Victoria?
In Victoria, I think there's something happening with treaty at the moment, isn't it?
Yeah, but when this government put treaty on the table proper and not just dismissed it back in 2015, the rest of the Victorian Aboriginal community says, well, okay, well, now that we have a government that's willing to explore it, who do they talk to?
Okay.
You need a mechanism, and that's what my role was to design the Victorian voice. Yeah. And that's the first People's Assembly of Victoria, who we've just had our second election.
Okay, yep.
We elect them. No one else. No non-Aboriginal people get involved in our elections here in Victoria. Of course. So we elect our voice, then negotiate and work out, well, how is treaty making going to happen in this state? And we're nearly there.
I hope so. I hope that something good can come out of it, because I think what's happening is that you've got your Peter Dutton, and you've got Pauline Hanson, you've got all those other politicians that that are saying no as well.
Yeah, you've got Peter Dutton, you've got Jacinta Price, you've got Lydia Thorpe. None of them support a voice, and none of them support treaty. Well, they never did.
It's really difficult, because then even when I've spoken to other people about this, they say, oh, yes, there's no consult with other clans.
There will be. The referendum is not designing this voice. The referendum is just to put the hook in the Constitution to make sure it happens. The biggest task coming up is, if we're successful with this referendum, the biggest task then is, okay, so how do we design it? Aboriginal people from across this continent need to have an input in how it's designed.
I'm so glad that we've been able to get a whole lot of viewpoints today. It's been really refreshing, because it's always good to have lots of different First Nations people's viewpoints.
Of course it is, and not all of us are going to agree either.
No. Look, and and it's not even just about that. I think everybody is in agreement that there needs to be change. Yes. And Lydia Thorpe did give a really interesting speech at the press conference. No, sorry, the press club. The press club. It's an excellent speech, Jill.
Oh yeah.
You might want
to look at that.
Have a good listen to that, because she talked quite a lot about Aboriginal deaths in custody, the Bringing Them Home report, and she talked about treaty. Yep. And it really is an awesome speech. But Jill, it's been really wonderful having you on the show. I was so happy also to see that you were involved with the webinar about unlocking prisons in regards to prison healthcare. Sorry.
Yep.
And you've done some really amazing work.
Well, yes. I mean, we spent 2 years reviewing corrections. Really? And that report's now finished, and that report's now sitting with the Victorian government. So it's now up to us as the people to make sure that the government implement the recommendations in that report.
Which report was that, sorry?
It's the report that was commissioned by the Victorian government to look at reviewing corrections here in Victoria.
Oh, that you know what? That report, we're all going to be here all night talking about that.
Yes, I know. It's a big report, eh?
I mean, raising the age, looking at, getting rid of hanging points in prisons. Isn't that all part of it?
Well, I think it's more than that too, by the way. It's about changing the culture of correctional services.
Yes, indeed.
You know, a lot of our people, as we all know, are in prison mainly for crimes of poverty.
Yes.
And in Victoria, there's a bill at the moment to reform bail laws.
Yes.
You know, what happened to our sister girl, Veronica, she should never have died in prison. She should never have died.
That's
and,
right.
You know, if she had been given bail, she would have got medical help. But she was refused bail. So the bail reform, I think, is a welcome thing when it gets implemented.
It really is. And
Yeah.
and the inquest was quite harrowing, wasn't it?
It was the hardest thing I've ever had to watch, and also go in there into the court sometimes and listen. It was the hardest thing I've ever had to do. It's played on my mind ever since.
How so?
Well, I mean, you've got a young Aboriginal woman who was arrested for suspected shoplifting.
Yep.
And she died in agony, calling out for her dead dad to help her. She died, no one listened to her, no one opened up her door to see if she was okay. The screws just told her to shut up.
Yeah.
It's all there for the public to see. It's all on video, it's all on audio, it's all there. And no one gave a fuck about it. Sorry. Oops.
No, but that's okay.
Did you beat me?
Fair enough. It's true, though.
No. Yeah, no one gave... That's what's played on my mind. And I know there's many others, I know that.
Yeah.
But I haven't seen all the others. I've just witnessed what happened to Veronica.
I have to be honest with you, there's been a lot, but this played on my mind a lot too.
Yeah, yes, I agree. And I'm so sorry for swearing, I just get...
No.
Yeah.
Actually, sometimes it's very powerful to swear.
I know, but I've got to remember I'm on radio. I'm not just having a conversation.
I'm sure it's okay. Don't worry.
Yeah.
You know what? This is a good thing because I must have made you feel comfortable.
Oh, you did. I was just having this great conversation. Yeah.
I'd love to meet up with you sometime.
Yeah, love to. Yeah.
All right. Now, we're just nearing the end of our show. We've talked about a lot. It's been productive. Are there any final comments you wanted to make before we finish?
Look, no. I just want to send out a message to Uncle Dennis. You're still a leader, mate. Even though we didn't win, you've got the mob behind you, and well done for giving it a go.
Maybe he'd like to come onto the show sometime. I wonder if I can find him through the Human Rights.
That would be good.
The Human Rights Law Centre might have a contact, perhaps.
Yes.
Because
they would have.
They put out an excellent media release about it.
Yeah,
Jules,
awesome.
thank you so much for coming onto the program. It's been great having you.
Anytime.
Oh, that'd be awesome.
No worries.
Thanks a lot. Take care of yourself.
Take care. Yeah.
Thanks.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Ross House has community meeting rooms available for hire at subsidised rates. Perfect for small meetings, student study groups, Zoom conferencing and seminars. Facilities include free Wi-Fi, display screens for presentations, projector and sound system, and a Zoom conferencing system. HEPA filter units have been placed in every meeting room. You can book and pay via their website, rosshouse.org.au, or contact reception during office hours on 9650 1599. Ross House is a 3CR supporter.
And you're back with the Doing Time show, and this is Marissa. And it's approximately 4:54, and we're nearing the end of our show. Thank you so much to First Nations warriors Kieran and Jill for coming onto the show. We've talked about a lot, and it's always fantastic to have Aboriginal and non-Aboriginal people coming into a safe environment on the Doing Time show to talk about what concerns them. And I'm going to be out of here pretty soon, And stay tuned every Monday from 4 till 5 for the Doin' Time show. I'll be back next week as usual, and we're going to be going out now with our theme song, Black Fella, White Fella by the Rumpy Band. Thanks a lot and stay safe.
You've been listening to a 3CR podcast produced in the studios of independent community radio station 3CR in Melbourne, Australia. For more information, go to allthews.3cr.org.au.
Black fella, white fella, it doesn't matter what you colour, as long as you are true